this is Naomi Chavez. Welcome to Strengthening Families for a Better Future. This is class 2 of 10-week series, and we are on our new series now, and I want to welcome each one of you and remind you to take your notes when the class is through and make sure you turn your notes into the staff. So today we're going to be talking on the subject of taking care of your mental health in the face of uncertainty. We all know that we're facing right now some real difficult times. And the way we're going to be doing these classes is we've decided that we'll go ahead and we're focusing on substance abuse issues. And we're going to be alternating between Substance Abuse Weekly and Stress and Anxiety Management classes. So in the Stress and Anxiety Management classes, this is going to be one of those classes. Mental health is important, especially in times of uncertainty. So I do want to mention that as human beings, we like certainty. We like to feel in control. We like to feel that we know what's going to happen in every moment of our life, right? But life is just not like that, and especially during these times. And so, like I said, as human beings, we're like wired to want to know what's happening. We notice things that feel threatening to us around us, and when things feel uncertain and when we don't generally feel safe, it's normal to begin to feel stressed. So I want to teach you tonight, as best I can within the time frame that we have for the class, to learn to know the difference between mental health and mental illness. So mental health includes our emotional and psychological and social well-being. It affects how we think, how we feel, and how we act. In other words, our thoughts, our emotions, and our feelings, and even our decisions and conduct and our behavior. It also helps determine how we handle stress. So the state of our mental health, whether it be poor, whether it be healthy, is a major factor on how we're going to be able to handle stress in life in general. It also has to do with how we relate to others, our relationships, our communication, and how we make choices. Mental health is really important at every stage of life, from childhood to adolescence and through adulthood. Some examples of mental and emotional health can include things like depression, and depression can range from mild to mid-level to severe major depression. And day-to-day things can make us feel depressed or sad, and these are within our scope or within our reach, things that we were able to change on our own. And others may require evaluation or medication or therapy. It includes also things like anxiety, stress, poor body image, grief, and loss. Major changes in life also are a part of mental health, and it will affect in different ways, such as becoming a new parent, loss of a loved one, moving, or job loss or change can all affect your mental health and your day-to-day living. And as you know, with this whole thing that's going on right now with COVID-19, a lot of these changes I just mentioned are taking place, like never before in people's lives. And then along with the changes of loss of jobs, or, loss of, even now we're beginning to see loss of homes, lots of loss and grief taking place, loss of lives, from the virus itself all over the world. And with the increase of stress just because of COVID-19, and then you go along with that, you can have, maybe you were pregnant, you had a child, you're going through a divorce. So all of these things together can really, really affect your mental health. And so we want to talk about that in these classes, and we want to bring you not an extensive but an awareness class on mental health. Sometimes it's hard to know if what you're experiencing is actually the condition of depression or it's just a feeling of sadness. And we want to cover that in this class to try to identify a little bit of the difference. So it can be difficult to determine whether you're going through a condition of depression, or you're having a feeling of sadness, or if you're feeling worry, or if you're having the condition of anxiety. And just to get in a little bit more into that, what I'm saying is you can have a clinical diagnosis of depression where you need to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist that is able to diagnose that, or you're able to talk to a counselor and the psychologist or psychiatrist can also talk to you and determine the difference. But for the most part, you're either going to be experiencing just the feeling of sadness, and there are some signs and symptoms for you to be able to evaluate and begin to look at whether or not you are really in depression. And again, with anxiety also, there is the anxiety condition versus a feeling of worry. I also want to mention that where this is an awareness class, and this is where this class will come in, because what you want to do is get the education and develop the awareness of these things. And why is it important? Why is it important? Emotional and mental health is important because it is a vital part of your life, and it impacts your thoughts, your behaviors, and your emotions. So it's really, really important to be able to understand, the difference between mental and emotional illness and mental and emotional health. It plays an important part in the health of your relationships, and it allows you to deal and adjust to changes in your life. So whatever your mental health status is going to determine how well you do in dealing and adjusting to changes that take place in daily life. So you all have gone through some major changes already. Those of you that are going through the program, a lot of you have come from homelessness already, and you may loss of jobs and all of these things that I'm mentioning. So you may be already have experienced some of these things we're talking about today as far as, the mental health. And also to cope with adversity and experiences you may have gone through in life, you need to have a good, healthy mental and emotional state. You need to have that mental and emotional health. Your mental health plays a very key role in your adjustment and being able to face things in life in general. So how is mental and emotional health different from mental illness? And mental health refers to our emotional and psychological state, our social well-being, and how we feel about ourselves and how we interact with other people. Mental health is not the same as mental illness, and I want to make a point of that. That's what we're learning tonight, that in this class, that mental health is not the same as mental illness. So although poor mental health can lead to mental and physical illness, there is, a difference between the mental health and mental illness. So keep in mind that having good emotional health also does not mean that you're always happy or that you're going to always be free from negative emotions. It's about having the skills and the resources to be able to manage the ups and downs in day-to-day life. So we need to understand, and I'm sure that some of you already are aware, that in this life we're going to have troubles. We're going to have ups and downs and different things. And in these uncertain times, a lot more than usual. You're going to face different kinds of stress, different kinds of, just trials and challenges and things that we have to go through. So I can't emphasize enough the need, for some of these techniques that you're able to use to improve your mental health. Things like meditation, journaling, writing, and listening to music, good music. Sometimes it's just very soothing to listen to music that soothes you and calms you, or music that you enjoy, that is upbeat and makes you happy and makes you feel good. So listening to music can be a great part of helping you take care of your mental health. Talking to a counselor and a therapist or good friends and family is really important also in taking care of your mental health. So you can reach out to a counselor. I mention in every class that you can talk to your case manager, and I can do telesessions with you right now by phone. Because of COVID-19, we're not able to do in person, but we can give you a call and we can talk to you. We can refer you if you need to go to a specialist, a therapist, and talk to someone. We can try to get you referrals for that, and we will look into those resources for you. Also, good friends sometimes make the best counselors. But when I say good, I want to emphasize good, meaning that there are people that have your best interests in mind, not people, for example, if you were a substance abuse user or you were abusing alcohol, you don't want to get around people who are also still in that lifestyle. And you don't want to go to them with your problems, because the thing is they're probably going to bring you down anyway. So what you want to do is you want to, seek out people that have your best interests in mind, that are going to be there to support you and listen to you and talk to you and offer suggestions to you. Just be there for you. Family, the same. Sometimes you want to go to family members and you want to talk to them about your problems. Make sure that when you go to these family members, they're family members that truly have your best interest in mind. So another tip might be to just, is be yourself. Always be yourself. To be true to yourself, not pretending, to be somebody that you're not. And it's okay, to show vulnerability at times. If you're doing it with somebody you can trust, let them know that, you're afraid of, the times, what's going on right now. Talk about your fears, talk about things that stress you, and get it out. Talk about it with someone who truly cares and has your best interest in mind. If you have no one to talk to, once again, I want to emphasize, reach out to your case managers, reach out to the staff at PVSS, let them know that you would like to speak with somebody. Reinvent yourself. A lot of you are coming out from one lifestyle and coming into a new lifestyle. I've been talking to some of you one-on-one, and we're talking about identifying what are the morals and values you'd like to establish for your family, because maybe your morals and values were different before that led to some of the problems you're facing today. So you want to explore and talk about, what do you want your life or your family to look like in 5 years, down the road? It's starting to set goals and start thinking about what are the values and what are the morals, what are, the things that you want to focus on making better in your home. Love and be loved. It's very important also that you are able to love. But one thing is for sure, until you learn to love yourself genuinely, it's very difficult to love others. So you need to begin with yourself, loving yourself, accepting yourself, being kind to yourself. And then you will be able to also share that same kind of love to others. Get a handle on your thought life, your mind. Work on your thoughts, learning the negative thinking, the patterns of thinking, where you're having thoughts of putting your own self down, looking at things from a negative point of view, changing those things to a positive. Begin to pay attention to your thought life and look at how you think. And journaling is a great thing, because then you're able to put down on paper, go back and read, and just see the way that your thoughts, are. What do you think about life in general? What do you think about yourself? What do you think about the problems? What do you think about COVID-19? What do you think about what's going on all over the world right now? Pay attention to your thought life and get a handle on your thought life. Get help about talking about your thoughts with somebody, so that they're able to help you sort out also your thoughts, and deal with the past. Learn to heal. Talk to somebody about your past. Let them know what you've been through, and you need to be able to heal from your past in order for you to let it go. So I'm going to move on to, I just lost my note here. Okay. Thank you for your patience. There we are. Earlier I mentioned that, as human beings, we like certainty. We like things, to be a certain way. We want to know what's going to happen next. We want to feel in control. And we want to know what's happening, and we have to learn to deal with uncertainty. Right now, there is, day to day, we don't know. Things change all the time. When we deal with this whole stuff with the mask, with the, shelter in place. A couple of weeks ago, we're going to open. And then as of this week, we're going to close. All these things that just continually change. And it's hard to deal with that stuff. It is, and that's valid. But we have got, like I said, to get a handle on our thoughts toward it. And a large part of anxiety comes from a sense of what we're thinking. And a lot of the mental health, stuff has to do with paying attention to what we're thinking and then connecting those thoughts to how we're feeling so that we can work and take care of our mental health. Right now, so many people are worried about COVID 19, the coronavirus. And a lot of people feel very helpless about what's going to happen or what they can do to prevent further stress. This uncertainty, it connects a lot to uncertainties of other aspects of life. And it will remind us of times maybe in the past when we didn't feel safe or we weren't sure of the immediate future, what was going to happen tomorrow. And if you were in the first classes that we had, if not, you could always go back and watch them. We were talking about childhood trauma. We were in the ACEs class, adverse childhood experiences and how they affect us as adults. And these times can trigger feelings of your childhood, of times of uncertainty, times of not knowing, if you grew up with an alcoholic parent, of what was going to happen that night, what was going to take place when they came home, all the uncertainty of what was going on in that home. Now it may be a time that these uncertain times may trigger all of that stuff to come back. And in times like these, our mental health can suffer, severely even. We don't always know that it's happening, that our mental health is being affected, and you just might feel things like feeling more on edge, and you might feel, unusually short-tempered or more angry than usual, helpless or sad. You might notice that you're more frustrated with other people. You don't have the same patience, or you want to completely avoid. You're just isolating. You're wanting to just sleep more and be alone and nobody to bother you, nobody to, tell you anything. And you begin to completely avoid any reminders of what's happening right now. You just don't even want to hear it anymore. For those of us who already struggle, you may have already be struggling with some form of mental wellness. You might feel more depressed or less motivated to do your daily activities. You're starting to just not want to, the regular showers. And if you're a woman, dressing up and putting makeup on and brushing your hair and doing, the usual things is just self-care. Self-care starts to be neglected. So if you're struggling in any of these areas, here are some things that you can do to take care of your mental health while we're all facing these things. So one would be separate what is in your control from what is not. You need to begin to look at, what can you change? There's things happening all over the world. And sometimes we start to watch the news or we start to look at the numbers and you start to hear how many people have died in the other side of the world. And that may cause you anxiety. That might cause you stress, or in another county. You can't change what's going on in another county. You can't change what's going on in another part of the world. So we can't even change sometimes what's happening in our own backyards, in our own, community, but you can change what's happening in your mind. The one thing that you can take control of is the way you're thinking, the way you're reacting. And that's where you want to begin to separate and say, I'm not going to stress. I'm not going to fall into an anxious state full of anxiety about things that are out of my control. I'm going to focus on the things that I can do. And it's helpful to focus on those things. For example, when it comes to coronavirus, you can't control what everyone out there is doing. You can't control how many people are dying, how many people are in the hospital. You can't control those things, but you can do a simple thing. Take control that you're going to wash your hands even if it's 20 times a day, because you know and you've heard and you've been getting educated and you've been hearing it all over that one of the easiest things that you can do to avoid contracting, this virus is washing your hands, and take control of that. Wash your hands. Remind others in your family to do the same. You can, make sure that you're staying healthy. Take vitamins, talk to your doctor, do your labs, do everything, that you can do in your control to make sure that you are physically healthy at this time. Remind others to do the same in your home. Limit your consumption, of just taking in so much information of things that are out of your control. Sometimes you need to ask yourself, do I really need to know what's happening everywhere in the world? And even though, we have compassion, our hearts go out, but our minds for our own mental health can only tolerate so much. And you have to take control of that. Another point is do what helps you feel a sense of safety. This is going to be different for everyone, because there's people that could laugh and joke in the midst of, do any of you know somebody like that? I mean, they could be at a funeral, a lost loved one. I have people in my family that they will be laughing, they will be joking, in the midst of a very stressful time. And maybe some people will look at that as a lack of respect, but that's the way they cope. And that's what makes them feel better. And so we've learned to not judge. We've learned that everybody mourns differently. We've learned that everybody faces things in life in different ways. And so we learn to respect one another. And we don't want to use humor as a total avoidant behavior, but it is a way that people use to tolerate whatever they're going through. So this is going to be different for everyone. It's important not to compare yourself to others. It's okay if you've decided what makes you feel safe is to limit attendance and large social events, is one of the things we need to be doing. But make sure you separate when you're isolating based on potential for sickness versus isolating because it's a part of depression. And that was the point, on my notes that I wanted to really bring out was make sure that when you isolate, and you're choosing to not participate maybe on consistently going out and getting food and going and shopping to the stores to buy your essentials or whatever kind of, activities you still need to do, make sure that you're not isolating and just wanting to stay home and not go anywhere at all. Absolutely, because it's a part of depression. And evaluate yourself. If you're doing it out of safety and you're able to do that, maybe there's no need for you to go out so much and you're consciously making that decision. That's mental health. That's taking care of yourself. So get outside in nature, even if you are avoiding crowds. Take a walk in your neighborhood. Go out to the sun where, get some sunlight. That way you get some vitamin D also naturally. And it will make you feel better to get into fresh air and to go for a walk with one of your family members, a couple of your family members. Take your kids out for a walk and just make sure that if you're in a more crowded area, you are wearing your mask. But it is a good way to take care of your mental health in these difficult times and stressful. And not just in these times. These are good tools that even if and when this pandemic passes, in the future, you're learning ways that you're going to take care of your mental health that are going to last you and go with you into your future. Exercise, always mention exercise to you guys because it helps both your physical and your mental health. Another is to challenge yourself to stay in the present. And, maybe you worry and you compound all your worrying. You're not only thinking about what's currently happening, but then you begin to project into the future. And one of my famous sayings that I always tell the clients is, you're worrying about things that haven't even taken place and may never take place. Cross bridges when you get there. Try and stay focused on the present. When you find yourself worrying about something that hasn't even happened, gently bring yourself back to the present moment. Notice the sights and the sounds and the tastes around you. Experiences in your immediate moment, and begin to just whatever is beautiful, whatever is good and pretty and beautiful, look at the flowers. I like to I went for a walk the other day, and I went to an area there's a little bit more nature, and you're just contemplating all of that beauty, the flowers, the trees, the air, the breeze. These are things that help us ground ourselves. I was talking about grounding in the last class. They help us just ground ourselves in the midst of a stressful time, so that we're able to bring our minds back from what ifs, what's going to happen, what's coming in the future, and focus on the present now. So engaging in mindful activities is one way to help us stay grounded when things begin to feel beyond our control. And one of my last points here is stay connected and reach out if you need more support. Remember to stay connected. Keep watching the classes. Request the one-on-ones. If you're already doing the one-on-ones with me, continue to do them. Let's stay consistent on those and continue to reach out to your staff and case managers. So if you're feeling particularly anxious and you're struggling with your mental health, with some of the awareness and the points that I've brought out in this class, it's okay to reach out to a mental health professional for support. Get a referral, and talk to somebody. You don't have to be alone with your worry, and it can be comforting to share what you're experiencing with somebody who's trained and skilled and able to help you. And remember, I always say this with these uncertain, difficult times, we're all in this together, and help is always available. And if you're struggling, reach out and get some help. So we'll see you next week for our next class of our 10-week series.